Now we're going to talk about comments made by Marlon Wayans, who is disenchanted with how much disharmony is taking place in the comedy space. So Marlon Wayans is all about peace, love, and happiness. He does not like this recent trend of comedians calling each other out, um, being contentious, you know, slanderous, even. Marlon Wayans wants to go back to the days where it was all about camaraderie and cooperation. So this says Marlon Wayans reacts to drama among black comics like Cat Williams and more. I don't like the disharmony. Marlon Wayans is singing No More Drama. The actor and comedian 51, whose new stand up special Good Grief hits Prime Video on June 4th, opened up to people in this week's issue about the buzzed about discord among some top black comedians. I think this is a gentleman's game, said Wayans. It's comedy. I don't like all the disharmony. Much of the disharmony he speaks of came to the surface following comedian Cat Williams' appearance on Shannon Sharp's podcast Club Shay Shay this past January. During the fiery interview, Williams detailed his disdain for multiple top comedians like Kevin Hart, Ricky Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, and more. But while Williams' candid comments caused the podcast episode to go viral, Wayne says he's not a fan of the drama. I think for comedy and black comedy, says Wayans, it's important for people to see love, respect, and laughter. Not everybody has that experience, but that's the experience that I came from. He continues, I'm not going to sit there and talk bad, even if I have a problem with somebody. I'll probably call them up and have a sit down. And if there is a beef with Dave or Cat or somebody, I'll be the first to get on the phone with Dave and call Cat's people, me and Rick Grant, like, yo, let's set a meeting. For Wayans, it's about setting a loving example as he and his siblings have always tried to do. To see our heroes fight, I don't think that's why we're here, he says. We are here to be examples, not just in the industry, but with our behavior. We're here to be examples for those coming up behind us. And the comedian reveals he and brother Sean Wayans, along with their adult sons, are in the process of putting together a podcast to do just that. I think it is needed. So, Marlon Wayans is kind of kumbaya, doesn't like the recent trend of comedians going at one another. And he wants to see more collaboration, peace, and harmony. And he believes even if I have a problem with somebody, I'm going to do it privately behind closed doors. And I'm not going to be calling out people publicly. What do you make of his comments there?
I mean, I agree with that. I don't know how much that will actually happen, uh, but I agree that there's too much beef going on in the comedy industry. I don't understand it. When Kevin Hart was catching his stuff early in his career, I was there for that. His role in 40-year-old version, I was busting out laughing. I was like, oh, what is this? Oh, this is hilarious. I think Kevin Hart is a funny person, but I don't think he's a good comedian. And so when he was getting this rise and he's on everything, and I just didn't really understand it. Once I saw that there was people out there hating, well, not hating, well, yeah, calling it out for what it is, that he has writers and all this other stuff, that he's pretty much an industry plant. I was there for that because of the type of humor he did, and it did seem commercial and all that other stuff. So I didn't see anything wrong with that. But as years went on, and more content is coming out on the internet, I'm starting to see that there's beef all over the industry. Like, it's like they run in cliques. And if you're not a part of this clique, or you're not a part of that clique, or if you're cool with this person, then I ain't gonna be cool with you. It's some weird. They operate
Yeah, they're acting like rappers.
like rappers. And they acting like there's street beef, like there's drugs on the table, like there's stuff that's going on that's outside of comedy. It's like, you guys are just comics. So I think what's going on here, I think it's a deeper thing. I think it's something that's more industry related, or profession related, type of thing. I can't really put my finger on it. The best thing I can put to it is that I think that comedians, the reason why they're able to be as good as they are at what they're doing, a lot of these guys come from backgrounds. A lot of these guys grew up ugly. A lot of these guys grew up short. A lot of these guys had to be funny in order to get on or to get girls or to be known. And with those types of things that's already in that person, sometimes apparently those insecurities in life manifest itself once they're actually famous and known, and they still never got over this part of themselves or never got over that part of themselves. So there's an aspect of it where I see that maybe it's like there's a predisposition for comedians to be feeling like some type of way. And then the other component is because I've heard theories of just the one comic, and you can go down the list for years, and then you can run the string together of the one black comic that was allowed to be on. So whether it was Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy ran it for a while. I can't think of too many people in the 90s. Like they would pick people here there. And then the latest version of it was Kevin Hart. And there's this, apparently, this is what I've heard from other comedians or whatever. There's this mentality of there's only one spot. So they're competing against each other all the time. Not for that one top spot, but the act of comedy is like rap, where it's competition. Like, I gotta go kill this guy. I'm funnier than him. Or I killed the show. This guy's not funny. I'm the funny guy. And I don't know what that is, but I guess that's a part of the comedy ecosystem. So it comes out as beefs, which again, I figured that comedians would be more loving and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think that these guys are just competitors, and they take it a little too far. I do think they need. I think they'd be more powerful together instead of all of this little petty beefing that they're doing. So it don't have to be the Cat Williams. It don't have to be the Kevin Harts. It's the regular comedians that do shows here, do shows there, and they be beefing. So I do think it needs to change within that culture, but hey, I don't see that coming anytime soon. So what are your thoughts though on Sir Marlon Wayans? Do you agree that it's a little bit too much rigmarole going on in the comedy industry?
He must have felt like this for a long time because these comedians have been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I've been following along, not just watching the actual stand-up specials, but then sort of looking at backstory on how some of these people think and what they think about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, competition is the apt word, because whether people know it or not, comedy has always been a competitive area. I think it's being magnified now because
Mm-hmm.
of stuff like Club Shay Shay, where now these individuals are hopping on podcasts and they're airing out their competitive grievances on these episodes that go viral on social media and YouTube, and it's catching people off guard because it's like, damn, I didn't know you felt like that. But really, they've always been this way and felt this way. They're just talking about it publicly now because these platforms are affording them with the opportunity to do so. But as far as I can tell, comedy has always been competitive. I can remember watching old interviews with people like Chris Rock and Earthquake, Wanda Sykes, even, where they are sort of throwing subtle shots at other comedians whom they think aren't funny. It didn't rise to the level of what Cat Williams did, but also back then there was no Club Shay Shay. So maybe if there was a Club Shay Shay back then, it would have risen to that, occasion. We don't know. I just think we are living in the age of 24/7 access to media. And what we're seeing is every genre of every form of entertainment getting involved in that. So it's putting these various sensibilities and themes on Front Street and exposing them in ways that the general public has never been exposed to them before. One side note on Kevin Hart, because I hear what you're saying. Kevin Hart, the reason why he blew up the way he did, in my opinion, was because despite the fact that he's a black comedian, he doesn't do black comedy. Like, Kevin Hart was probably the first comedian that I ever saw where it was just as many white people in the audience as black people, if not more so. Like there's more non-black people who like Kevin Hart than black people, from what I can tell. Like you'll see far more. Like if you go to a Cat Williams show, it's going to be skewed more towards black people in the audience than not. But
Okay.
at a Kevin Hart show, it's every demographic. And I think he had a crossover appeal. Now, I don't know if he was chosen plant, whatever. I don't know about any of that stuff. That's above my pay grade. But what I will say is he was a black comedian, but he wasn't doing black comedy. And if you go back throughout the history of a lot of these stand-up comedians who are good stand-up comedians, people like Chris Rock, Chappelle, people like Earthquake, Bernie Mac, Cat Williams, well, not so much Cat now, but early Cat Williams, in my opinion, they really leaned on race comedy. They really leaned into that, like making fun of race and culture. And Kevin Hart never really did that. He just kind of talked about life and made fun of himself. Like Kevin Hart's form of comedy was more of a self deprecating form. And I think that that sort of allowed him to be open up to a greater audience, which is what I think contributed to why he was the superstar that he was and probably continues to be. So that kind of that to me sort of addresses the whole Kevin Hart phenomenon. Because other than that, me personally, I grew up in the '90s. I'm more so a fan of the Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle form of stand up comedy than the Kevin Hart form of comedy. But I get it because Kevin Hart's form of comedy entails more of a mass appeal. And I got a lot of white friends who are just salivating at the chance to go to the next Kevin Hart show, despite him being a black comedian. So it is what it is. But moreover, I just think that comedy is a competitive space, and we're seeing it play out more and more now because these individuals have the ability and opportunity to be on these platforms like Club Shay Shay more and more. The only thing that I will say, and this speaks to Marlon's point about disharmony and why I do agree with him overall, there's an aspect of this to me, and I swear I saw this coming a mile away, that's like trying to ride a wave and replicate trends. You know, they do it in music, they do it in movies, and now I guess they're doing it in comedy too. Where if Cat Williams gets on Club Shay Shay and just throws flamethrowers at everybody and it goes super viral, now we're just gonna have a lineup of a bunch of comedians who want to try and replicate that formula. So now Monique's done it, Amanda Seals has done it. Now all these comedians want to get on Club Shay Shay and be a flamethrower. And so there's an aspect of it that's disingenuous to me because are you really about this flame throwing life, or are you just trying to capitalize off of a formula that you've already seen work via Cat Williams, who was the first to do it? And if you're not really about that life and you're merely trying to capitalize off of a formula that you think is replicatable, then I do think that that is a form of disharmony, and that otherwise you should just focus on the collaboration and the cooperation aspect of it. Because I agree with you, they are stronger together. Kings of Comedy is classic, not just because of Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, and Steve Harvey individually, but because the four of them got together and they put on a classic show. I would have suggest Bernie Mac was the best of those four. But the point is, the four of them together was pretty powerful, as opposed to just them doing their thing individually. I've seen several Cedric the Entertainer stand-ups since his set from the original Kings of Comedy. And to this day, I still believe that his set on original Kings of Comedy is better than anything I've seen him do in the 24 years since original Kings of Comedy came out. And that was because they were the four of them together doing it together. So overall, I agree with Marlon. And I think there's a part of it that's cringe because I feel like they're just kind of trying to capitalize off of internet social media trends, which is unfortunate, but not uncommon given how the world works in this internet troll world that we've created.
Yeah, I agree, man. So we'll see what happens with all of this stuff and see if anything changes, man. But yeah, I agree with Sir Marlon here. I don't like all the beef and all the back and forth. But hell, man, even when you were just talking about Kevin Hart, and I was just, well, I was thinking to myself, I was like, but he's not funny. And then and me saying that out loud about another comedian, and he hears that, and because there's craft and there's work that he put, he's gonna be like, bro, I ain't funny now. So now we got a problem. So I guess it's kind of easy to get into that boat too. As soon as you say that, and that's not even me throwing shade. I just don't think he's funny. And so with that, that's like, somebody coming up to you saying, I don't like this guy's food. I don't like this guy's cooking. I'm a chef, bro. What you mean you don't like I don't like what you did with the calamari. So it's like at that point, now we got to fight. So I guess I get what that whole premise is, because they do put a lot into this. And if somebody says you're not funny, that can also hurt your brand and all of that. So I get all of that stuff. It's a weird space, man. And I guess you gotta have. Well, I know you have to have thick skin in order to operate in that field. But I know for sure there needs to be more unity. I agree with that. And to touch on the Kings of Comedy thing, that was that iron sharpening iron, steel sharpening. Everybody was getting in on that, and I agree with you. I didn't think Cedric the Entertainer was fun. I've seen his stuff. I saw his comic view stuff leading up to that. I wasn't impressed by him. I was like, why is he on there? But he held it down. I was laughing.
Yeah.
And that's because he had to step up to the plate. And the crazy part about all of that thing is, you said that you thought Bernie was the best. So did I. And honestly, anybody that watched it said that. So the narrative that Kevin Hart was airing out on Shay Shay was that, well, Steve Harvey knew that and was hating on that. So there was a beef between Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac, because Bernie was the obvious winner of that. And it's not that it was about being whatever. He was the obvious, like, come on, bro. Like,
he was the funniest person. Yeah.
Bro, I could not, bro. I had tears in my eye. When I first watched that, bro, we had the VHS at the house, bro. I was crying. I could not stop laughing. So, and that was the first Bernie Mac set I've ever watched. And I was hooked, bro. I was like, this guy's hilarious. So, yeah, man, good times. I hope we do get good comedy in the future with all these sketch guys out there. They're funny people, but they're not good comedians. So hopefully we get some good comedians in the future, man. And hopefully these guys clean up their acts. But I agree with Sir Marlon. We need some more unifications out here, man.
Yeah, I think the golden age of stand-up comedy is come and gone, just like the golden age of hell. If you ask me, the golden age of everything is come and gone. The golden age of movies have come and gone. The golden age of video games have come and gone. The golden age of sports have come and gone. The golden age of TV has come and gone. The golden age of comedy has come and gone. And because of this social justice climate, comedians can't be funny in the same way that they were before. Because the minute that you say this one thing or use this word is offensive, and then you're getting canceled, you got to apologize and all of this other crap. So comedians can't even be funny in the same way anymore, which is disappointing. But, I do think that there is an aspect of comedy in which true comic relief and an ability to reflect on life involves embracing some of the more uncomfortable aspects of life. And when you try to bury that because you don't want to offend people, all you're doing is neutering the content. It's no longer funny. But they have no choice, because they either neuter their content and they go just, plain white bread, or they have to suffer the wrath of the internet world, who's going to, talk about how they're offensive and all of this other stuff that comes along. So I just don't think comedians can be funny in the same way that they used to be. And objectively, I think that makes for comedy that's not as funny. And a lot of this is generational too. I'm 38 years old, so I came up exposed to a certain brand of comedy. So these newer comedians that people are hollering are funny, I personally don't get it. Like, no disrespect to Joe Coy, I'm not really getting how he's funny. No disrespect to Gerard Carmichael. To me, he's not really funny. The rest of these people who people talk about nowadays as being funny, they're not funny. To me, they're not funny stand-up wise. But that's because they do a newer form of comedy, which is completely whitewashed, completely neutered, completely lacking in any sort of controversy or hot button topics. And to me, that's just not as funny. So disharmony aside, Marlon comes from a previous generation where you could do comedy differently, and you can't do it that way anymore. Pretty much because society is determined you can't do that anymore. I was watching Kings of Comedy the other day. It doesn't age well Bernie Mac could Bernie Mac could not do that set today. He couldn't.
No, he would not.
He couldn't.
He can't.
He couldn't do that set today, and that to me is a tragedy. That's a tragedy to me. But hey, this is what it is, man. This is everything is sensitivity training, social justice stuff. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, and I'm saying this as a black person, and I'm fair minded. I'm reasonable. Lisa Lampanelli, I never thought she was funny. I never thought she was funny. She made a living off of doing black jokes. Her whole routine was, I'm an overweight white woman, so I have success dating black men. It was complete low-hanging fruit. I didn't like that, but was I thinking she needs to go away? No. Let her, that's her thing. Let her live in the comedy space within the context of how she does her comedy. I don't like it, but I don't like it, but I was like, let her have it. It is what it, let her have it. And to a certain extent, that other chick does the same thing. What's her name? Amy Schumer. Oh, I saw one of her things one time, and she's similar. She does similar type stuff, and I don't like it, but I'm also not like, oh, get it out of here, or that's offensive, or that's this, or that's that. No, let it all live. You know, that's just how I see that. But the world doesn't operate on that frequency anymore, and it really is too bad.
Boy, Amy Schumer, don't ever bring up her name on this show again. She is horrendous. My God. Like, bro, I don't have a top 5 worst comic list, but she on there somehow. So I know she on there.
Yeah. her and Lampanelli. Get them both out of here. They're terrible. Terrible. But I'm just saying, as bad as I think they are, I don't think they need to go away. I just think they all need to be here. But we have just kind of decided that we're going to exercise certain forms of content. And it's neutered. Movies are worse as a result. TV is worse. Comedy is worse. Everything is worse as a result, in my opinion.
Gotta love it, baby. Gotta love it. Self-censorship, baby.
Shouts out to Marlon Wayans, man. We on Conscious Approach agree with you. We need more harmony for sure.
Yeah.